apologies for being a little late. The board spent some time deliberating on the schedule, and tomorrow. The reality is we have sat through hours of friendly cross, repeating pre-filed testimony. We have made many accommodations, including moving landowners last. We have admitted everything into the record, even exhibits that were filed late and improperly. As such, we are behind where we had anticipated being at this point. The board anticipates finishing all of Mr. Jorde's landowner witnesses today. We will be back tomorrow to do the landowner on our witness list. We encourage Mr. Jorde and his staff to continue reaching out to add to any potential witnesses for tomorrow. And we anticipate issuing an order early next week, laying out being here in November for a very limited amount of time. And so with that, we will turn back to Mr. Fetrow and use our time as wisely as we can today. I see cards up. Is that to speak with Mr. Fetrow? Okay. Ms. Grunhagen is waiting to talk to Mr. Fetrow. Are you waiting to talk to him? Okay. All right. And now, yes.
I can just make one comment on the schedule. Obviously, I'm well aware that the board has Mid-Americans win prime case all next week. But if there is any way that we can finish this up sooner than November, we would certainly urge the board to do so. As you note, the board has been extremely accommodating, and we had anticipated this would be wrapped up by now. And, again, we would just urge that if there's a way to do this sooner without that long of a gap and sort of losing the flow and the momentum, we think that would be beneficial to the process.
It is appreciated. We do have multiple major cases pending in front of us, and due to facility restrictions, it would appear the first full week of November would be the first possible time we would be back. It is, just to be clear for everyone, this decision will not be made from the bench. It will be made through a decision at the end of a hearing. And so it is incumbent upon us to continue building a record responsibly and diligently, and we are proceeding as quickly as we can, and just again ask the parties to abide by the rules that have been laid out in orders and in our administrative code. So thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Dublinsky. It's noted. Okay. I believe we left off with Ms. Grunhagen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Gunnar. Hi, Mr. Fetrow. My name is Chris Grunhagen. I'm with the Iowa Farm Bureau, and I have a few questions for you. In your comments, or in your testimony on page 4, you talk about your biggest concerns being soil damage, compaction, and drainage. Is that still the case?
Yes, and also I might add that this land has been no-tilled or minimum tilled for the last 15 years. So there's been no deep tillage done. And so we've avoided lots of compaction and lots of soil erosion through this process, and the farm has come much more productive.
Very good. Could the IUB staff go to his direct testimony on page 244? I want to talk to you a little bit about your alternative route that you've proposed. If you could, yeah. So as I see in there, you have the diagonal line there is the current proposed route. Is that correct, that you've hand-drawn in there?
Yes, as close as I could estimate it from the other maps.
Okay. And this is this includes all 3 parcels. You just don't have them divided out, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And then is your suggested route then along the north of those two properties, and then along the east side?
It would go across the north and across the east side.
Okay. And so that would be your preference?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If the pipeline has to go through, and eminent domain is granted, and push comes to shove, I would sooner have it there than any other place on the farm.
Okay. Could the staff go ahead and page down to page 246, just 2 pages down here? So this is attachment 23 to your testimony that lays out the county tile. Do you recognize
Yes,
that?
yes, ma'am. What I circled in blue is the farm, and this is in Drainage District 6. And as you can see, there are two lines, one that goes up the east side and branches off, and one that goes through the northwest corner. Now, we've gone to the county engineer's office and tried to understand when this tile was installed. And unfortunately, the original maps were digitized a while ago into the records, and the dates of installation were left off. But as near as we can tell, this tile is 100 years old. We've had quite a bit of problems of tile heaving and coming up and breaking in the line that goes up the northwest corner. There's an area there that's probably only, I would say, 24 to 36 inches deep, and we've had, the tile has been fixed a number of times, and it's probably going to have to be completely replaced.
So the tile on the east side of your parcel there, do you know how deep that is?
I'm thinking it's probably, the nearest we can tell, it's probably 3 to 5 feet.
Okay.
And we know that there are other tiles, private tile that are tied in there, but we don't know the exact location.
So do you have additional tile on this farm?
Yes.
Okay.
Not that we installed, that was installed. The farm even in a fairly wet year is fairly well drained. As you can see probably by the county tile lines, it slopes to the north and a little bit to the east. And if you go up above it into the neighbor's land, it drains into an open drainage ditch.
Okay. So on your property, it's all below ground tile?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you compared where these tiles are located with your alternative route?
Well, it appears that either way it'll cut across that county tile line. Well, if it goes up the north side and up the east side, it won't intersect any of the private tile lines that we have. But if it goes up the north and east, it will probably intersect 2. And maybe 3. I'm not sure where that branches off. It could intersect 3.
Would you have concerns with the proposed pipeline route intersecting with the county tile? Or are you more concerned about your private tile within your field?
I think more with the county tile, and I'm also concerned about, the other concern I have is that we know that probably this land has, or the tile has to be replaced. Both the county tile and the private tile because of the age. And I'm concerned with that route going diagonally across how to run the mains, and so it doesn't, so we don't have difficulty intersecting with the pipeline as proposed by Summit.
And then could we go back to the KMZ file then? Because I had a question about the layout of that. Now, if it's possible to zoom in on the east side of the property. Is there a waterway going down that east side of the property?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Does that coincide with the tile, with the county tile?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether it coincides with the county tile or that's right. If it's right to the edge of it.
So if the pipeline company requests a 100-foot easement, do you think it'll overlap either the waterway or the county tile all along the east side?
Yes, I do.
But would you still prefer that over the diagonal route?
Yes, because it would still be on the edge of the land, and I think it would be easier to repair that waterway than out in the middle of the main farm.
Okay, thank you. And I just have one more question. You mentioned that you moved to Michigan in July of 2022.
That is correct.
Okay. Do you come back to visit Iowa very often?
I usually come at least once a year.
Okay. And about what time of year do you come to Iowa?
They usually come in September, October.
Okay. So would you have been in Iowa in, say, January through May of 2023 or 2022?
Not in 2022 or 2023. I was there in 2021. Let me tell you that my wife is blind and she always is a semi-invalid, and I'm a full-time caregiver. We moved from Arizona to Michigan to get closer to family, but still it requires a great deal of my time. And I was prepared, if push come to shove, to make a trip to testify at this hearing, but I was glad that I was able to do it virtually.
Well, I much appreciate your time and patience in answering my questions. Thank you. No more further questions.
Ms. Coles.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tetrow. Jean Colas with Colas Family Farms. I have a few questions. Ms. Grunenhagen asked several. Are there any known easements on that property?
The only easement is along the south edge, and that's with the county for the B43, I think is the name of the blacktop road that runs across the south border.
Okay. I don't know how much communication you've had with your tenant. Now, you said he's been a tenant for 40 years. How long have you owned the farm?
Objection, Your Honor.
State the objection.
Page 3 of the direct testimony provides that information. It's the 8th question asked in the Jorde landowner testimony form and appears in essentially every set of Jorde landowner testimony.
Ms. Coles, do you have a comment?
Well, I'm interested in that because I've owned my farmland for 122 years, and you go through a lot of different situations, both financially and decisions you have to make. And to me, I think it's important to know how long he's owned the land.
Okay, can you ask a question that clarifies the pre-filed testimony?
Well, I have another question pertaining to that tenant. Is he aware of the pipeline going through? I wasn't clear on that.
Yes, he is aware of it.
Does he have concern with farming that with a pipeline in it and his heavy equipment?
Yes, he does.
Is he concerned about the loss of tillable acres he will lose during construction and afterwards?
Objection, Your Honor.
State the objection.
Yield loss is described often in the testimony, including at pages 15, 36, 37, attachment 9, and attachment 10. As to the tenant, attachment number 24 is a letter from the tenant related to drain tile.
Ms. Colas, do you want to respond to the objection?
I didn't mention drain tile, but I'll redirect the question. You mentioned that you're in your 80s. Does this concern you? Does this affect your livelihood because of loss of rental income?
Objection, Your Honor.
State the objection.
The 9th question in each set of Jorde landowner testimony is, do you or your family depend on the income from this farm? That's what's just been asked. It's asked and answered.
Ms. Colas?
Has Summit ever talked to you about the risks and hazards of this pipeline?
No.
You mentioned they were going to, that I believe it was Chad Goddard was going to do a biologic survey. Was that a biologic for animals or whatever, or geohazard? Could you clarify that?
The only thing that was mentioned was they wanted to do a biological survey.
I don't know if this is pertaining to your hesitancy in signing the easement. Did you have concern of how that one-time payment would affect your Social Security benefits?
I really wasn't looking at that as much as I was looking at the capital gains tax because of the low basis, because we've owned this land so long.
Do you realize that?
And also that the payment I felt was very minuscule for what they wanted to do with the land.
And did you say earlier that one of the first conversations you had was the possibility of eminent domain?
No, eminent domain was never discussed, but it's always implicit in anybody trying to put a pipeline or any type of utility across your land.
Do you feel that this pipeline is used for the public convenience or benefit?
No, I do not.
I don't know. Have you tried to get liability insurance?
Objection, Your
I have
Honor.
State the objection.
The issue of liability insurance is discussed in this witness's pre-filed direct testimony, including at pages 19, 20, 21, 36, as well as attachment 12, which is a grouping of materials related to liability insurance.
Ms. Colas?
Sorry, I guess that answers all my questions. I don't have access to that information, so thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fetrow.
Ms. Colas, all of that is in EFS.
I don't have a computer here. Sorry.
It's okay. Just wanted to let you know everything in the record is all in EFS. Ms. Grunegan, your mic's still on. Ms. Kaufman.
Hello, Mr. Fetrow. I'm Julie Kaufman. I'm a affected landowner in Shelby County. And I was just going to ask you about, as an agronomist with a BS from Iowa State University and a career in crop and seed production, as you've testified, I would assume you consider yourself an environmentalist. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that this project is environmentally responsible?
No, I do not.
Could you elaborate, please?
I don't believe it's environmentally responsible. I think the risks are too high. The situation as far as the environment is concerned is it will not reduce the carbon footprint that much. If we should be sequestering any carbon, it should be taking from coal and other plants and not biological CO2.
Do you believe that as long as like China and India have these are not reducing their carbon imprints, that the U.S. has the major responsibility to reduce ours?
I think that is a problem. Unless we get everybody in the world to cooperate, we're not going to make any headway.
And do you think that the farmers of Iowa and other in the Midwest region should be held responsible for this?
No, I do not, and that is not the motivation behind this project. The motivation behind this project is the subsidies that will be received.
And do you think that the IUB has a responsibility to ensure that this project is environmentally responsible?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that this serves a public is this a public utility, CO2?
No, it is not.
And do you believe it's safe?
No, I'm sure if from everything that I've studied, and I've studied a lot, this is not safe. If you go to the Pipeline Safety Trust website and you pull up the CO2 page, the first thing it says is dangerous and terribly under-regulated. And I think that sums up what the situation is as far as CO2 pipelines are concerned. And I suggest that the Pipeline Trust is a very, very good source, not for what they just have on their website, but to the different sites that they refer you to.
Thank you, Mr. Fetrow. No further questions from me.
Okay, with no other questions from the parties, Mr. Jorde for redirect.
Yes, thank you. Sir, you said you withdrew survey permission. Do you know for sure if they did any surveys on any of your parcels after you withdrew that permission?
I assume they did because when I received the Exhibit H papers, the survey is very, very exact, noting all of the waypoints in the area as far as location of the pipeline.
And so if that work was done after your withdrawal, they would have been on your property without your permission, without an injunction, correct?
That is correct.
Has Summit ever discussed with you why they could not route their proposed hazardous pipeline along the northern portion of your property and then go into the property to the east rather than going diagonal across your property?
I have mentioned it a number of times in phone discussions that I had, but it was always no answer.
Do you know if the landowner to your east has signed an easement?
According to my last map, they have not. I don't know if they have sometime in the last time that I've looked at the Exhibit H landowner map.
Have you seen any evidence at all that this proposed project would decrease the carbon footprint generally, or the carbon output generally at all?
No, I have not.
Okay. And have you seen any analysis of all the carbon that would have to go into making the pipe, all of the labor back and forth from different states, all of the energy used, all of the equipment to locate the pipe and trench and all that? Have you seen any estimations of all of the carbon that would be emitted from that entire process?
No, I have not. And I'm sure if I did, this would not be carbon neutral.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fetrow. We appreciate your testimony. Mr.
Thank
Jorde,
you.
your next witness.
Bonnie Peters.
Okay, I think we can all hear that intermittent chirping that sounds distinctly like my dishwasher at home when it's not running properly. So if it's a cell phone, if everybody can check your cell phones, if it happens to be something in the